I think there's so many people that have spoken to me in the last while, but not just to me. I just hear conversations. I read articles. I see posts everywhere on places like LinkedIn. And people are wondering, is it possible to have a team that doesn't sit together? Does it really work or does it not work? What are the challenges? Why are some people seemingly doing it very, very successfully, and yet I don't know where to start? Well, if that is some of the things that's been going through your mind, then today's episode is for you. So today I'm going to talk a lot about the benefits of building a remote team, and then also I will share some of the drawbacks of those as well. So let's get into today's show. Good morning. It was awesome to see Mr. Mark Westenford first in the house this morning with a long good morning. So thank you very much, Mark. But welcome. If you're watching the recording, a massive warm welcome to you as well. And I really appreciate you being here, especially always when you join live, because you know that's where it's at. There's a lot of engagement and things happening. And just talking about that, today we are definitely giving away some more coffee as well. So if you know, that is part of what we do here. So every week, one lucky viewer wins a nice bag of coffee that is roasted and ground to your liking. And to do that, hashtag Colombo is the hashtag this morning. So hashtag Colombo, COLOMBO. And you can put that in the comments. But today is going to be an exciting show, because I think this is something that has really come to the fore, and something that has been helped along, I think, with what's happened the last 3 years. And suddenly we have people saying, whoa, I can save lots of money. We don't need an office anymore. And now they have people sitting all over. And then some of them do it very successfully, and some people really have a challenge just to get started in that. And how do I even know if this is something that would be working for me? Well, today we get into all of that. So really excited for today's episode. But I'm not alone. So also we have Nikki from the FBI looking at what's the latest news in the financial planning profession. We have Norma with us this morning, and she's going to talk about focusing on outcomes that I don't desire. And I don't think that's going to be that I have to. It's really something that we do and why we do that. So looking forward to her session. And then we have Igno back this morning, and Igno is going to share some qualification stories. So if you know Igno, you know there's always a twist to that tale, and something that's going to be very entertaining, but very, very valuable and useful. So stick around for that. And then I'll just one or two quick announcements, and then I will get into today's main topic. So before I hand on over to Nikki, let me just say a warm good morning to everybody. And there is Mr. Mark's good morning, Propulsion people. Good morning, Mark. Mr. T, how are you doing this morning? Johan Potgieter, awesome to see you. Welcome. Mr. David Kopp. You and I also due maybe for a bit of a catch-up, Razan, good morning. Yes, thank goodness it is Friday. So yes, absolutely. Although, I don't know, the weekends and the weeks are blurred, so there's no more Fridays. Francis, good morning. Nice to see you. Thanks for joining. Elmine, good morning. Nice to see you as well. Adrian, warm welcome, Adrian. Hoop het gaan goed daar by jou. Renee, good morning. Good morning. I hope you're doing well. We've got Charmaine in the house. Good morning, Charmaine. Awesome to see you as well. Heloise, good morning. Saw you in the week in the best practice huddle, so that was amazing. Thank you very much. Then with Kevin. Kevin, my friend, how are you doing all the way over in Malaysia, if I remember correctly? Yeah, it's my friend, but I get confused with where all the people are. So Kevin, warm welcome to you. Albert, good morning. Nice to see you as well. Jonita, good morning. Nice to see you. And yes, so there we go. Wonderful coffee, Colombo. Yes, absolutely. Right, so Johan Potgieter is already in the house with hashtag Colombo and with the correct spelling. So let me show that, hashtag Colombo. So if you want to win, it's already open, so we're already collecting these comments. So that's all you need to do, whether you just post hashtag Colombo or you add it like Kevin did to a post, it'll work. So fantastic. And then we've got Ms. Mohaji in the house. Mohaji, I hope I'm saying that correctly. You can hit me over the head if I don't. And then Cecilia, good morning. Cecilia, welcome. Ladies and gents, let's get the show started. Really appreciate you all being here. let's head on over to Nikki and hear what the latest is for us.
Good morning, Francois, and good morning, everybody. On this Friday, the 21st of April. Now, there are two reports that were released this week that are relevant to the financial planning industry, and I would like to share some of those findings with you. The first one is the Alliance Global Pension Report for 23 that was released on Wednesday. And this report noted that South Africa's pension system scored below average in a global study looking at the viability of 75 pension systems around the world. We received a total score of 4.2 out of 7 in comparison to the unweighted global average of about 3.6. So how they rated it, they say that the country's low ranking is an indication that the South African pension system is in strong need of further reforms. Well, I think we knew that. The Alliance Pension Index is anchored on the analysis of the 3 pillars: country demographics, basic conditions, sustainability, and the adequacy of the respective pension system. And South Africa ranked unfavorably in all 3 of these pillars. So unlike the best pension systems in the world, which are those in Denmark, Netherlands, and Sweden, they all scored below or around 3 points for each of these 3 pillars, and we scored 4 points in total. So problems in South Africa, the report said, include low coverage, low benefit level, and a lack of retirement savings, imperiling the adequacy of the system. I must say, though, that we score in line with the rest of the third world countries, so there is some comparisons that you can do there. So go read it. It is fairly interesting how we are viewed globally when it comes to our pension systems. Then something more local. The FSCA's regulatory actions report was released this week, and this makes for very interesting reading, just to see how busy the FSCA was over this year. So they launched 418 investigations, which is nearly 2 for each working day over the year until March 2023. A total of 406 cases were concluded, and it currently has a further 329 open investigations. The biggest areas that was violated were the FIRES Act and the Insurance Act. And a dedicated team was set up by the FSCA to investigate funeral parlors because many of them had started selling financial products without licenses. Then there were some 38 new investigations launched into market abuse, like things like insider trading, and another 23 were opened into over-the-counter derivative providers. Those are people who are selling derivatives like contracts for difference or CFDs without being licensed to do so. Another area that this report highlights, and this we also see from time to time, is renting a key individual. So a KI is responsible for managing the activities of a FSP, as all of us online know. And there has been a growing trend of FSPs hiring KIs who failed in their duties, resulting in financial losses to clients. So that is also something they are dealing with. A total of 210 people were debarred over the last year, mostly for dishonest conduct, such as falsifying internal company policies to make it appear as if the FSP is compliant with the law when it is actually not. The regulator suspended the licenses of 984 financial services providers, and that is about 8% of the total. That is quite a high number. However, these are not necessarily permanent suspensions, because some of them do get reinstated after the conditions of the suspension is remedied. And then lastly, administrative penalties of 153.8 million were levied against 44 investigated parties although the amount was reduced to 100.6 million on reconsideration by the Financial Services Tribunal. What is also interesting, if you go read the report and the feedback on it, is that FSCA has decided to take the Viceroy case to court, given that it was set aside by the Financial Services Tribunal. And they are also focusing on the Steinhoff issues and the people that they levied the penalties against, that those were quite big levies, to see if they can get those funds recovered. So that makes for a very interesting reading. I think the FSCA is really, really very busy. Last comment, I'm happy to report that FPI's new website is up. We're live from this morning. The website is modern, it's easy to use, it contains loads of information for both members and non-members. It is a living website. Development is ongoing. We cannot wait to share it with you. So please go check it out at www.fpi.co.za and give us some feedback. It will be appreciated. And on that note, Francois, have a wonderful weekend and see everybody again in a week's time.
Awesome stuff. Thank you very much, Nikki. And next up, we have Norma. And Norma's talking about focusing on outcomes I don't desire. So excited for this one. So let's head on over to Norma for another amazing episode and hear what she has to share with us.
Good morning. Glad to be back today. So I've got another great topic for you today. My topic is that we focus, and maybe why do we focus so much on the things we don't want instead of the things we want? So maybe think of in your own life, how many maybe hours and mental space and energy we waste focusing on the stuff that we don't want. We tell ourselves, what if the client doesn't sign? What if I don't make my goals? What if my business fails? And I think there's a 50% chance of each of those things happening. So we are on this earth, we are thinking, we are using our energy, and we are using our mental space. Why not use it in the bucket of, yes, this will work? Because as you know, there's an equal chance for both of those things happening. So why don't we put it into stuff that is actually serving us and driving us forward? So I think Tony Robbins talks about the power of focus, and he uses this race car illustration to, describe it. And what he says is that, race car drivers knows that it's our, when their car starts to skid, that it's our natural tendency for us then to focus on the wall, focus on that thing that we want to avoid. And if we focus on the fear, that's where we're going to be ending up in that place. So the race car drivers, every time they get into their cars, they know that their lives is at risk. So they have to be like cognizant of the fact of where they, spend their focus, where they pay attention. So they know that unconsciously that we steer in the direction of our focus. So when they go down this racetrack and there's a bend or a turn in the road, they steer their focus to the open track and not on the barriers. And I think that's a great example of how it explains focus to us. So why do we spend so much time and why do we focus so much on what we don't want? I think a couple of reasons. I think number one is that it's so practiced. So what we practice most in life is going to be what shows up most. So it doesn't take any effort from us to do the things we've always done. It's like this little dirt road that we start off with, that thought. And then the more we think it, it becomes that super highway. And you know how easy it is then to move on a super highway versus that dirt road. So another thing is, I think it's instinct for us, in that instinctual and negative bias it's a survival mechanism. We always look for what's wrong so we can make sure that we stay safe. I think it's also society and culture that maybe reinforces all the negative things, like the news, always putting bad and what's wrong with the world out there. And for us to stay safe, we want to pay attention to those things. I think also fear of failure, because we're so scared of the unknown. We are scared that we're not going to make our goals. We're scared of criticism. We're scared of disappointment, maybe fear of rejection. And I think if we, and exactly what Tony says, if we focus on the fear, that's where we're going to end up. And I think lastly, we focus on the things we don't want because of maybe conditioning from society, or maybe how we grew up. And I think money is a good example here, because let's say, society or how I grew up dictates, what I should desire. And in this money example is, if I grew up thinking that money is bad and people with money is bad and people with money is greedy, then obviously I'm going to like shy away from becoming wealthy because I don't want to be that. I want to, I'm focusing on the fear and I'm actually then avoiding it. So how can we shift? How can we shift into thinking and focusing more on the stuff we want? Just three things, and it's not difficult. It's awareness, number one. So now that I know I'm focusing on all the things that's wrong and focusing on all the negative, I have that awareness. So that's key, because once I know, I can go and change it. Secondly, it's to always use gratitude and mindfulness. And I think gratitude sounds so cliche, but I think gratitude always gets us out of lack. If we bring our minds back to right here, right now, fear is or worry is in the future, and the regret is in the past. So if we bring ourselves back to right now, it's like, what can I do right now? How can I be grateful right now? And then the third thing is to be clear and be specific. So if there's 100 things out there that I could do, I'm going to be overwhelmed. But if I nail it down to 3 things, then I can focus my attention on that. So that's what I have for you today on focus, and focus on what we desire, because we're going to focus in any case. So why not focus on the stuff that is actually pushing us forward and is serving us? So that's what I have for you today. Thank you. I'll be back next week.
Thank you very much, Norma. So just a quick one before I bring Ignu in, is that if you want to win some coffee, #Colombo, just put that anywhere in any comment by itself or together with something else, you're more than welcome to. And you can win a fantastic bag of coffee. So #Colombo, go and do that. So next up then I have Ignu, and Ignu has some qualification stories for us. So let's head on over to Ignu.
Well, hello everybody, and welcome to this session. You'll see I'm looking snazzy today, aren't I? No, I'm off to my daughter's graduation, and I thought I want to share some graduation stories, or paper stories with you, qualification stories if I may call it that. About 5-6 years ago, it was before the time of COVID, so I can't say exactly how long ago, I was in Pietermaritzburg browsing through books in a charity shop. I always love these old charity shops. You can find cheap books, nice business books, wonderful story books, all kinds of classical literature. And as I walked around, I saw from the corner of my eye, I caught sight of this box of things. And I walked closer, and it was framed certificates. Now, what fascinated me about these certificates they were things which I had trained in my life. It was like counselor selling and social styles and introduction to life assurance. And I saw that they had belonged to an FA. The name was still on these certificates, but they were meaningless. They were sold or given away to the charity shop, even in their frames. They might have hung on a wall somewhere to impress some clients, I don't know. But in that moment, I realized it's not about the certificates. What have you done with what you've learned? You see, if you want a certificate, if you want a degree, I can print you one. I've got a color printer. I can print a degree now, right now. It's not about that. It's about the experience. It's about the challenges you face. It's about proving to yourself that you can do it. And that's why many people, although they don't have a university or a tertiary certificate or degree or any form of qualification, they've got experience which qualifies them to do magnificent things. So that's the first thing I want to share with you is, what are you doing about what you've learned to serve your customers? Because if you are serving, you are doing way beyond what the qualification is about. And the qualification is not about you being important. It's about you rendering a better service. And I want to tell you one more story about that. And that's my dad, when my brother and I graduated, and it reminded me of that, is he came through to Bloemfontein all the way from Bethlehem. And after the ceremony, we were still neatly dressed in what our suits and ties or whatever we were wearing at the time. And my dad took us to what he called the tip, the scrapyard. He loved to visit those old scrapyards to find pieces of metal and all kinds of things. It's the same way I love these charity shops, I think. So we were walking around on the scrapyard. It was raining. We had grasshopper shoes on. We were wet. And my dad looked at us and he said, I know you've graduated, but never ever think that a qualification or graduation makes you more important than anyone else. It gives you more responsibility because you know more now. You can serve better now. Now, whether you've got a degree, whether you have studied something, whether you intend on studying something, what's the purpose? Is it about rendering a better service? Is it about serving others? Because if it's about that, you are one of the few people who understand it's not about position, it's not about qualification, it's not about anything else. It's about servant leadership. If you look at the greatest leaders in the world, take the time, think about it, but they served. And how are you serving? How are you serving your family, your colleagues, your customers? That's the game we're in. And the stories of serving others by improving ourselves, and after improving ourselves, are the best stories in the world. Make a few of those. Take time, improve yourself. This is the time of ChatGPT, artificial intelligence, all kinds of things. It's making a lot of our current qualifications meaningless, worthless, or is it? Because it's not about the qualification. It's about the experience that you create when someone engages and interacts with you. Go ahead, create those experiences, have fun, serve to the best of your ability, and live your purpose. That's all I have to say about that. Write a great story, keep going, take care, and after graduation, hope you have a marvelous weekend. Bye.
Alrighty, so thank you very much for that, Tichnu. Amazing segment once again. And off to the quick announcements. So let's do that. So as you know, Colombo Coffee is very gracefully sponsoring the giveaways for the show, where we are giving away a bag of coffee to one lucky viewer every single week. So if you've won in the last 6 months, then you can only win once every 6 months. But if you haven't, then you are more than welcome to put hashtag Colombo in the chat, and then we will pick that up and we will do a lucky draw at the end of today's episode. So hashtag Colombo. As you can see, there's already quite a few entries, so do get it in. It is amazing because we ground the coffee to your liking and for the type of coffee that you like. So, you know, whether you want beans all the way through to filter coffee and everything in between, mocha pots and all, you know, French presses and all those amazing things, we will ask you what you like and we'll do it for you and then send it off freshly or fresh, just the way that you like it delivered right to your door. Alrighty, so and in just by the way, on the side you also get a little video from me saying well done and a massive congratulations. So I mean that's cool. Alrighty, so what I want to talk about is just very quickly Global Financial Planning Conference, but instead of me talking about it, let me share this message with you.
The Global Financial Planning Conference is back. It's happening on 16 and 17 May. An amazing virtual experience on a global scale that's unique as the speakers we have.
Last year, we had over 1,200 people attend this amazing event from across the globe, specifically from South Africa. We had over 450 people last year. We've got 10-minute slide-free talks, new ideas, thought-provoking ideas. Everybody that's speaking at this conference has gone through the International Speaker and Influencer Program. Every year, it's just blown our minds. And then if you really want to elevate your business, you want to jot down practical, powerful, impactful takeaways, it's 2 days of energy, insights, inspiration, and thought-provoking ideas.
It's absolutely amazing. The momentum has grown year on year. More excitement, more amazing talks coming out. This year, we've also got a day of CPD. We've got an amazing platform, incredible, immersive, interactive experience, inviting all of you.
If you have a team of people, book for them on the website. If you just want to get a ticket for yourself, you're more than welcome to do that as well. 349 Rand. You can get them at propulsion.co.za/GFPT23.
I'm just going to reiterate, if you're a financial planner that wants to elevate your practice and you want to connect with peers and like-minded individuals, this is the place to be. And this is one of the conferences of the year on the calendar not to miss. We look forward to seeing you there.
See you there. Alrighty, lekker. So then I hope to see you at Global Financial Planning Conference. The link is also down below in the description, so you can find it there. Just click it, go do it, and it is amazing value. And as you saw, not only do you get access to the 2-day conference, which already will give you verifiable CPD points, you also get access to the day of CPD, which we structure in such a way that there's at least 18 CPD points that will cover technical, general, ethics and practice standards and all of those good categories. So that only takes place in the new cycle, but it does get you off to a fantastic start, and all of that for only $349. It's just incredible value. You won't get it anywhere else, I guarantee you that. Righty, so then the other thing that I sort of want to give or make a request out to the world and see what happens. Obviously, you know, with all the stages from stage, you never know if you're in stage 0, stage 6, or I don't know if there's new stages coming. But we're looking still for a sponsor to help us with the backup power. So if anybody knows anyone, then please put us in touch so we can ask. We have not been successful to find someone to help us with that, but I am definitely positive that there will be someone out there who wants to sponsor us, and we've got a few things that we can give in return for that as well. Then, righty, so ladies and gents, if you find value in what we do, please like and subscribe to this channel. If you find value, we really appreciate it. It means a lot to us. And then if you can also help us share our videos with others, and if you see us on social, engage with us and do that so that we can get this message out of what we do to so many more people who we can help. Righty, so on that note, it is time for the main topic of today, which is all about building an incredible remote team to take your business to the next level. I guess typically when you want to start a conversation around anything, you don't typically start off with what are the benefits of doing this. But that's exactly what I'm going to be doing right now, is to talk about the benefits of building a remote team for your business. Now, just maybe to position this before I get into the benefits, it's just that not for one moment am I professing that this is the new way or the only way or something that you must do. This is an option. It's like anything else in life. If this is a good fit, if the shoe fits, put it on and go with it. And it depends on a lot of different factors. It's definitely something that I would say, you need to consider, because I think what is happening definitely out in the world is that a lot of the good people, and this is one of the biggest things that I hear so many advisors, when they call me and say, look, I'm looking for an assistant, I can't find good people. We find people, but then they don't stay, and they're not as good as we thought they were, et cetera, et cetera. So it's really a fight for talent at the moment as far as admin assistants are concerned. And you're welcome to share with me in the comments whether you agree with that statement or not, and what your experience has been. But that's definitely one of the challenges. So, there's a few benefits by building a remote team. And I think a lot of these good people that are able to work independently, people who are very experienced, people who value their own personal time and their own personal situation, will start to look for more maybe of a hybrid way of working, or then even fully remote. So that's why I think this is important. And in a future episode, I will look at how do you build a proper team on site, a team that is in your office all the time or most of the time. So we'll also look at that. But today I'm going to focus on remote teams. And let's start off with the benefits, if you want to do this. And so some of these benefits are, I don't know, I will share my views and things on everything that I'm saying. Some of these things are just mere facts. Right? But it doesn't mean that it resonates with me or it resonates with you probably. But let's get into this. So the first one is obviously that there are cost savings, right? So if you have a remote team, now whether that remote team consists of 1 person or 5 doesn't really matter. But there's a cost saving. And the biggest cost saving, as you know, in my case, is probably coffee. But mostly it's that you don't need the office space. You can work from home, they can work from home. And again, I'm going to talk in a future episode about this whole, is this working from anywhere, or remotely? Is that really what it's cut out to be for everyone? So I will talk about that. But, there's definitely less office space. There's less utilities and supplies and those kind of things that needs to be paid. And it's definitely more cost effective, I think, from that point. Then, one of the things that's a mere fact is that depending on where this person is situated, the expectation around what they need to be paid or what they need might be very different. So there could be a cost saving. Now, I am of the school that if you do a specific role, then everybody for that role should get the same income. The only differentiating factor should be your experience. It should not be who you are. It should not be, where you live and your location or any of those things. That job has a certain value, and that is what those people should be paid. However, the world of business does work differently in different places, and different people have different views on that. But as I said, for me, lower salary. If somebody works somewhere in the middle of the Free State in a small town, cost of living is a lot lower in those areas. And, you could maybe get away with paying them less than you would have to pay somebody who lives in Sandton, for example. But, I don't think that is probably the best way. But nonetheless, let me not overstate that fact, right? So the first thing is cost savings. The second thing is increased productivity. Now, why is there increased productivity? Well, very simply, because I don't have to sit in my car going from here to work. And there's so many people that I talk to and hear about that they need to drive half an hour or an hour to get to work and the same back. And it's absolutely crazy to think about like how long we've done that, because that's your personal time. You got to be at work at 8 or 8:30 or maybe 9 if you're lucky. That means that you are driving to work in your own time. That is time you could have spent with children. That's time that you could have spent making breakfast. That is time you could have spent exercising. That is time that you just could have reflected and just maybe took a moment for yourself. So there's so many things that we could do in that space. It also means that, for example, myself, like I'm very good when I get up in the morning, I'm very energetic and I can get a lot of stuff done in that first 4 hours. But now I spend that first 4 hours, I spend an hour and a half getting ready, getting in the car and then driving somewhere, and I've already lost the best 1.5 hours of my productivity. So that's the same thing in this instance, where maybe there's people that they want to do that, but maybe there's people in the middle of the day they're more energetic, or at the end of the day they are more energetic. And now these things can be more flexible from that point when you work remotely. You don't have to be in a place and you're spending all this time basically getting there. That's obviously a different story if you live around the corner from where you work, which is always the ideal. But for some reason, we tend to live on the opposite side of the world when we work this side. So it's just a thing. Also, usually, there would be less distractions and definitely less stress from commuting. When I'm just looking at the amount of cars on the road at the moment, it's crazy. It doesn't matter where you go. Do we go to Woolworths or where you're driving to Pretoria from where I am? It's absolutely crazy, the amount of cars on the road. So it is stressful and people don't stick to the rules and all this stuff. So, it's part of that one can really remove from the equation just to make that person who's there to support you and help you do a better job and be more focused with less distractions. Then also the third benefit is probably one of the biggest, is that, we tend to think we're looking for somebody that lives near us. Suddenly the entire country opens up to you. In fact, suddenly the whole world opens up to you. So you don't need somebody from South Africa to work for you. You can find somebody in another country to do work for you. Now, there's some challenges that come with that, and I will be looking at some of the drawbacks of these things as well. But you do get access to a larger talent pool if you really think about that. You're able to go and look for people who are skilled and can do the things that you want them to do. And if you can't find them in Krugersdorp, where I am, then maybe you can find them in Bloemfontein, or maybe you can find them in Cape Town, or maybe you can find them in Mauritius. I don't know. But those are one of the things that I think is a big benefit. And then you can also, if there is some form of weird and wonderful, specialized skill that's really, really rare and that you need because of the type of clients that you work with, then maybe you can find it elsewhere if it's really not available locally. So whether locally is in your town or your city or wherever that may be. So those are the benefits. So there's some cost savings, there's increased productivity, and there's access to a larger talent pool. Now, I think one of the biggest challenges, and I've gone through this quite a few times, is that, is how do you actually go about finding these people? And what is that selection hiring process? Because if I think about the conversations that I've had with quite a few people just in the last 2 weeks around this, is that they do struggle, they go through the process and then this person just doesn't pan out. Now, is it that this person was so good at, selling you something that wasn't really the thing? Or is there a flaw in that recruitment process and the process that you go through, that interviews, etc.? Or are we just so happy, oh, yes, somebody, I don't want to go through all of these motions, this person looks okay, let's appoint them. Like the more rigorous that process is to get them in, and I'm thinking, I know of somebody at the moment looking at moving to Australia, for example, the process that they're going through, multiple interviews, and then even part of it is getting to talk to the team on that side and the management and being able to just engage with them and ask questions. It's a 3-4 week long process, just to see if this is a good fit both ways. And we don't do that. We're so like, oh, I've got to get somebody now. So having a proper process is very, very important. So there's sort of 3 things that I want to touch on in this regard. The first one is that you've got to be very clear on the job description. So you have to write that down in detail to say what is required and what is expected from this person. So you have to, part of that, say that, look, the requirement here is that you're able to work remotely. And also you need to set out the expectations, because that's one of the most important things when it comes to remote work. When somebody's not, imagine how difficult it is when somebody sits next to you and you're battling to communicate and you're battling to set the right expectations. How difficult, but also how important that becomes when we want to do that remotely, because it's not as simply, oh, please double check. Let me ask you a quick question. There's some barriers in between that makes it a little bit more difficult. So setting the expectations is absolutely critical. So you've got to be very clear on what is the responsibilities of that position and what is all the things that are expected. What are the qualifications that are required? And obviously the skills. I don't think experience means anything really. It's really about, can you prove to me that you have the skills? Saying that you've been around for 20 years doesn't really say anything, because you could have been around for 20 years and you're still doing it the way you did when the year you started. So there's been no growth, no progress, nothing. So it's very important to focus on the skills and that they're able to demonstrate that they have these skills. But you've got to be clear on those skills that are required in the job description, right? So that's the first one. So craft a clear job description. The second one is you've got to assess the candidate's remote work capabilities. Now, it's not just anymore about can they do the job of an assistant or a paraplanner or an operations manager, whatever it is that you're looking for in your business, you've got to assess, can they communicate well? What are their communication skills? How good are they with time management, and do they have the self-discipline? Because that's why I said earlier, this is not for everybody. Not everybody can just, it's nice. Do you want to work from home? Yes, go. Not everybody has the ability to do that, because there are those three things. You've got to be able to communicate clearly, concisely, effectively. All right. So people can't go back and forth to try and figure out what it is that you're saying. So that's very important. You've got to be able to manage your time and know that I do this, and then maybe I go fetch the kids, and then maybe I come back, but you've got to be able to manage your time and be able to focus, and then have that self-discipline to stick to your own planning. And then I don't know how much of a proven track record there really would be at this point in time. I've been working from home since 2013, but most people are only working from home since 2020. So I might, a year, 2 years, 3 years, is that enough to really show that there's a proven track record that you've done this successfully? I think, yes, we're getting there. It's almost like asset or portfolios, 1 year returns, 3 years returns, 5 year returns. I love how we go, our 1 year return isn't so great, but look at our 3 and 5 year returns. They still lekker, So it's possibly the same thing here, where you rather look at the long-term performance there as well. So very important. So we've got crafting a clear job description, and we have assessing candidates' remote working capability. So that's important. And then obviously you've got to be able to do an effective interview with that person. And obviously if they're going to do remote, don't meet them in person. Do this remotely, do this with video conferencing, and they've got to have their video on. There's nothing, like we struggle a lot in sessions to get people to put on their videos, because why? Because you're busy with something else in the background and you're not focusing. Like when you interview somebody, it's very, very important that you can see them and that you can pick up on some non-verbal cues. When you ask a question, you see their face go all funny or weird, like there's a cue there. So it's very important that you're able to do a proper video conferencing and think about the experience of that person, because however you come across from this end, so the way that you see me and perceive me at the moment is, does this set a good example? Does this lift the bar or raise the bar? Does this actually, without me saying anything, show the expectation of what is expected, from anybody that works in our space? So that's the important part from that point as well. So do that. And then I think, obviously you want to sort of establish their skills and their expertise and all of those good things. But this conversation should be a lot more about, their behavior and around their, certain situations and certain, what's the word? Sort of just scenario that might come up, when you work remotely, and see how they respond to that and what do they think and what have they done in the past. So all of those are important. Right. So those are the three things. So if you want to hire a team, think about that clear job description. And some of these things, is just for in-person. It also matters. Assess their remote work capability specifically, and do an effective interview, and make sure that you create a great experience during that interview. It's very, very important. Right. The next one that I want to talk about is strategies for managing and communicating. So now you've appointed this team or this person into your team. What now? Right. So how do I make sure that I manage and I communicate effectively and well with this team of mine? So first step always with anything is expectations. You've got to make sure that you set very, very clear expectations. You want to make sure that there's some measurables in place, right? And there's specific goals. And it is very important that you provide them guidelines. So think about, I always use this analogy of a rugby game or a netball game. There's the framework. So there are the rules. There are the 4 lines, right? And whatever you do within those 4 lines, as long as you stay within the 4 lines and you stick to the rules, you can play the game. But we don't know where the ball is going to go. We don't know when there's going to be a scrum or a line, a line out or anything like that. So we've got to be going and saying, well, what are the rules? Be very clear about it, and then let them get on with the job. Let them play their game. So very important. And then something that is extremely important, right? And this is a tip actually that I got from one of the sessions that we had. I can't remember now. I think it was during the PROpulsion Tech event. Georgina Renate said that one of the things that they do, because we were talking about streamlining processes and so on and so forth. And one of the things is that you've got to set down clear guidelines for communication. And there's this internal communication within your business, and there's external communication with clients, right? Or suppliers or anything like that. And what they did was to say, look, any internal stuff, you only use Slack, for example, or you only use Microsoft Teams, or you only use Google Chat or whatever it is. That's what we use for internal stuff. When it's a client, we use email. So now there's no blurry lines or there's 6 million emails. You know, this is the stuff that came from inside the business, and this is where we communicate. It's all in one place, and everybody needs to follow that process. Emails is reserved for clients. I really like that approach, and I think it's a very, very effective strategy to impose. But the point is that it's important to set guidelines and protocols, of how to communicate, when to communicate, how often will you meet, that when we have meetings, cameras must be on. Like all those little things are quite important. Then, if you want to schedule productive virtual meetings, that is definitely something that is important. So if your team is not in South Africa, maybe somebody sits overseas, make sure that you use something that when you set the time, it will automatically go into their time zone. It will automatically show them when it's for them. So that there's no confusion or there's no conversion that needs to take place. All of that kind of stuff just happens automatically. But that obviously doesn't apply if your team is in South Africa. So then it doesn't matter. The other big thing with all of these meetings is to have a clear agenda. I don't know how many of you use an agenda. Put it in the chat. Tell me how many of you use an agenda in your client meetings. And if you are having remote meetings with your staff, do you have a standing agenda? Do you have an agenda for every meeting? So there might be a standard agenda, or maybe you create an agenda for every single meeting. But do you have an agenda of what needs to be spoken about? Or is it a case of we meet every Monday at 8 and then we see what comes up? So let me know how you do that at the moment. Then the last one for the managing and communication is establishing a strong company culture. Now, this is probably the biggest challenge when you have somebody working remotely, because you don't get to spend a lot of time together. The only time you're really together is in those virtual meetings. Now, I'm a very pro. I would say you need to get your team together every month, probably once a month. Get them together, get them in person if possible. I mean, if somebody sits in Cape Town and you're in Joburg, that might be difficult. Maybe you do it once a quarter. But take on that cost and get people together, because that is important. You can do virtual team building activities as well. I won't say that I'm a big fan, but it is definitely something that is possible. So one can do that. And then you've got to reinforce. This is where you keep on telling the story. You keep on telling the dream. You keep on sharing what is the mission, guys. What are we trying to change? What are we trying to accomplish? What do we mean to clients, and what are we doing for clients? You've got to reinforce that at least once a week to make sure that they stay on board and they stay excited and that they remember what it is about and what your business is about. So that's very important. Then obviously, I guess you can't have a remote team unless you have amazing technology. So the role of technology is undeniably important. So we can't skip that. And you know that I have a massive love for that. So there are some essential tools and platforms that you may need. And I'm just going to make it very, very simple, right? I'm going to break it down into three main things. There's actually a fourth one, which I believe is important. But there are three aspects of a business that if you work remotely, that you've got to think about really here. And there is a fifth one, but I'm going to deal with that separately. So the first one is how do you manage your work? Call it project management, call it work management, task management, whatever it is. But there's a lot of work, there's instructions and all sorts of things that needs to happen. And how do you keep control of that? How can you, without asking me what I've done and where I am, where can you see all of this? So having some of those types of, technology solutions would be great. So there's Trello and there's Asana and there's Monday.com and there is, Microsoft Planner and there's all sorts of different things. But that could be something that could work for that. Some of the CRM systems have quite good task management processes and tools built into them. So that's also an option to use. And then you've got communication tools. So obviously, if there's work, we've got to communicate with each other. And for me, those are things. And remember, I said not email, right? So email is not, because I'm talking about between you and your team. So email is not an option. So you look at things like Slack, you look at things like Microsoft Teams for that matter. So those are the kind of tools that you will look at in order to be more efficient and to communicate clearly, and that everything is in one place so that everybody can see what happened. And if you think about artificial intelligence that's now being introduced, things like Copilot from Microsoft, there's other tools available that will summarize what happened and will give you an update. So if you missed a meeting, because that meeting gets recorded and there's a transcription, the Copilot can summarize to you and say exactly what are the action points and what are those kind of things that needs to happen. So it's incredible what's about to really become available. And it's something that we need to use to our advantage, specifically if you're working with a remote team. Then the last thing is file sharing services. And there's obviously a security risk here. So I'll talk about security in a second. But file sharing services, it's very, very simple. Like it's the cloud, right? So when we talk about the cloud, I know the cloud is much wider and broader than that. But typically when we talk about the cloud, we talk about some file sharing service, something like OneDrive, Dropbox, Box, Google Drive, those kind of services where you're able to share. Things like Microsoft SharePoint, for example, is also a solution. So those are the three things, right? So your work management, task management, those kind of technologies. So you need that. Then you need a communication tool and you need file sharing services. So those are the three main ones. The fourth one that I spoke about is a CRM. So think about your old filing cabinets that you had. That is being replaced by a proper CRM. That CRM should be able to keep all of the client's demographical information, all of the meetings with that client, all of the interactions with those clients, the notes from the meetings, all the instructions that came in, or things that should get done. They get managed somewhere else, but that's the record. That is your virtual file. Like you used to have those old pesky yellow files, or maybe you had beautiful leather-bound files or whatever it was. That is your new file. So that is your client record. That's CRM, right? But it doesn't mean I need to manage my work in the CRM. It doesn't mean I need to store my documents in the CRM, et cetera, et cetera. And also the last thing you want to do is duplicate things. So you don't want to say, here's a document, but I'm putting it there and there and there. Like, no, that's it's not an effective use of your time. Right. So you might want to look at automation to do that for you if that's what you want to do, but a person should not be doing that. It's important then as a second point to this. So the first one was these essential tools and platforms that you need to employ, but you've got to invest into reliable technology. And reliable technology is a wide term because, you've got to know that the internet is where it's at. You've got to make sure that they have high-speed internet. It's always amazing to me, like we work with so many different people, and some people are just always fantastic and others just always have an issue. Like you can't afford your team to have issues with the internet. It is your responsibility to provide a proper stable fiber. Now, sometimes those are not yet available in certain areas, but the best internet you can get for that area, that they should have access to. And then obviously the training required to really use all of these tools properly. I think too little time is spent training and too little time is spent showcasing and just, sort of helping them make sense of this stuff. We say, oh, here's a new tool. It looks fantastic. There you go figure it out. So there's a process that needs to be gone through. The third part from technology is maintaining data security. That's obviously the most important thing. So you can do things like use VPNs in your business. Not all VPNs are created equally. Some of them really slow things down. But VPN is definitely one thing, and a very important thing. It's a pain in the butt. It really is a massive pain, but I use it because I know if I don't, something's going to come back and bite me. And that is multi-factor authentication. You've got to have something in place. So whenever your software allows for multi-factor authentication, if you use any software, you need to make sure that they offer multi-factor authentication. And these days, most of them do. But you want to use that so that you not only do you log in with a username and password, you also need to put in a code that comes to your phone or your smartwatch or something like that. Or they send you an SMS. There's many different ways that they do that, but very, very important. And then you've got to be very clear on the process of how these people must handle any data that is being exchanged during communications or received from clients, etc. So make sure that they know what they can and can't do. They're very clear about what's in the contract. You've got to do this contractually as well, but also from a training point of view, it's important, do cybersecurity training with them, right? Because 99% of the time, the issue isn't really a fault in a system. It's a person that caused that breach. Right. So what are some of the drawbacks? I'm just going to mention some of the drawbacks. I'm not going to get into them in detail, but obviously communication challenges. So there are some communication challenges when you have a remote team. So you're going to have to get used to this. Maybe there's time zone differences, I wanted to joke to say, even if you're in Joburg and Cape Town, there is probably a time zone difference, but be that as it may, it might be very difficult, as I said before, that it's hard to build a good company culture. And I don't think it's undoable, but it will take longer than if people are together all the time. So obviously, the more time you spend with someone, the quicker you get to know them, the quicker you get to think and work like each other. So that's the important part. Whereas if you have a remote team, obviously that might be one of the challenges. Then onboarding and training. Trust me, I've onboarded and trained quite a few people remotely over the last 3 years, and it is quite a bit of a challenge. And it does take a lot of energy. Not undoable, but it is one of the challenges. So one needs to think about that. How do you monitor them, and should you be monitoring? Some companies do literally micromanagement through technology. They want to see you on. You got to keep your camera on the whole day and be visible, and we want to see you. And it's like they track every keystroke and it's freaking ridiculous. But anyway, if that works for you, go for it. But I think that it is a challenge just to make sure they are productive and they are doing the things that they are. And from my point of view, just hold them accountable for the results that they were supposed to produce. And that's it. There's no other stories to be told. So just do that. Technological issues, challenges, today it works, tomorrow it doesn't. Then data security, obviously, it's very important. So make sure that you think about that. And then I think the biggest thing, and this is why I want to talk about, is remote all it's cracked up to be, social isolation, because it is great. But you do need interaction with other people in person, I feel. But I'll get into that in a future episode. So just to summarize very quickly, I think, when it comes to remote work, it's very important. Let me just quickly run you through the things. So there are great benefits to this. It's important that you have a process to select and hire these people. You've got to have strategies for communication and for managing the team, or communication with and managing the team. And then got to have the right technology. Without I think technology is the oil that makes this thing go smoothly. So you've got to have that. Righty, so before we do the lucky draw, let me just see very quickly what are some of the comments that maybe came in. I saw Julie says, love your storytelling, Ichner. Thank you very much. He is amazing. So Mel says, excited for today. We've got Kobus is saying, my 3 ladies work remotely from their homes and one from Cape Town. The best thing ever. Remote working is the best thing ever. Yes, I think, Kobus, there's no doubt that you have bought into this 100% and it is working for you. So that is absolutely amazing. And yes, definitely. I think one of the things that if I say remote team, it doesn't really mean that you need to employ them. You can definitely outsource as well, but they do become part of your team. And when I had Henry on from A Virtual the other season, we spoke about that this person becomes part of your team. So you've got to look out for that. So Des says that he recently started using an agenda for client meetings. Awesome stuff. And he also says, with my remote team, I've struggled with keeping a constant agenda. It's just sticking to your own rules and things, right? Righty. So what does Mel say? Those who have staff working from home, where do you keep the client files? Do you provide them with printers, pay their Wi-Fi? They are now using their resources to run your business. I think, yes, it is still your responsibility to give them the tools they need to do the job. It's not their responsibility. So even though if they use some of those things for personal use as well, comes with the territory, right? So specifically like internet, for example, I don't think we should get sticky about all of this stuff. Alrighty, so good. So Lumi, just as the last one, we completely paperless. Everything is stored on OneDrive. Our clients also sign paperwork via Quickly Sign. Amazing. Thank you very much for sharing. Alrighty, so ladies and gents, if you haven't yet, then you can still do #Colombo, but I'm about to do the draw. And we've got 16 entries, so it's a hell of a lot. So thank you very much. And let's see who wins today's coffee. And 1, 2, 3, here we go. Who will it be? Who will it be? Boom, 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 boom. Yeah. Well done, Arun. Brilliant stuff. Well done, Arun. I do hope that you drink coffee. So let me know. They also do tea, by the way. So if somebody is into tea, I guess I can chat to them and let's see if we can get some tea going as well. But anyway, on that note, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me today. I always appreciate it. It means a lot to me. As I said earlier, please do like and subscribe this video if you found value, and do share it with others. And please do engage with us on social. It helps a hell of a lot. So thank you very much. Stay safe, be blessed and prosper. Continue to raise the bar, and I'll see you next week. Same time, same place. Bye-bye.